Really good. Did you enjoy the session at
Oh,
one?
yeah, it was really good. Love
Thanks
it.
for your comment. I was thinking of you and I was thinking of that story, so I'm really glad you shared it.
Yeah, I thought I would share it, because I wasn't sure if there are million people doing Q&A.
Yeah,
So if no one's asking question, then
yeah.
it'd be good to have something.
No, exactly. So I've just started streaming. Is does this all look okay? Does this look
I don't
like the
know.
right place
I'm
for
still.
watching now? I think so. Yeah. Hi everyone. Welcome to today's YouTube live. Hope this is okay. We've had a couple of weeks where the technology hasn't quite worked and we haven't been able to stream to the right place. But I think it's absolutely fine today, Jan.
Yeah, I hope.
I think it looks okay. Yeah. So whoever is on the live the live chat, just say hi. Hi, Harsha. Introduce yourself. Tell us a little bit about who you are, what you're studying, where you're studying as well. Yeah, it'd be really good to kind of hear from you. Yeah, Jan, you look a little bit puzzled, but I think we're on the right page.
Yes, yes. I'm just trying to adjust my screen so that I can see everything, the chat as well as us.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Hi, Tolu. Thanks for joining us.
Oh, look, we have a little community here because I could recognize some names now.
Yeah, which is really nice.
So Harsha and Tolu, I think you've been here before. Is that right? Yeah. So yeah, so I recognize the name. So it's really good to see people coming back.
Definitely. Yeah. Welcome back. And equally, if this is your first time joining us for one of our YouTube lives, then welcome. This is an informal session. It's for you to kind of ask any questions that you have about securing a tier 2 graduate job in the UK, switching from your tier 4 visa to your tier 2, finding roles, applying to them, everything to do with that whole process. This session will cover, and hopefully you will get your questions answered. As we always say every week, don't worry if you don't have a question. You can just share your experience. How are you finding it? Are you feeling confident about securing a job here? Obviously, this is a really unique year. I mean, it's never really been easy for international students to secure work in the UK after graduating, but this year in particular, we've got the pandemic to deal with as well. So how are you feeling? Are there things that you've done in response to the pandemic? Are you approaching the process of looking for a job a little bit differently now? Or, tell us a little bit about if anything's changed over the last few months. But yeah, any kind of questions and comments that can come through would be brilliant. And I think we've got one from Harsha.
Yeah. What is the new points-based system for tier 4 visa?
Okay. So the new points-based immigration system, as you all probably know, is going to come into effect from the 1st of January 2021, and it's going to affect all visa types. They're going to be changed. It's not even going to be called a tier 4 visa. I think it's just a student visa, I think. So we don't kind of focus on the tier 4 visa side of things. Grad careers coaches very much specialists in helping students with the after graduation or during their university, to try and help the students with internships and placement years and eventually to the final goal of securing a graduate job. So, we can talk about the tier 2 visa, we can talk about what that's going to look like, what that's going to be called, and some of the changes there. But in terms of the tier 4, that's not something we can probably go into too much detail about, unfortunately. I don't think the process is going to change massively, though. I mean, what do you think, Jan? Have you kind of come across changes in the tier 4 or student visa?
I have no idea. I don't think so. I don't know. To be honest with you, I don't want to give you wrong information, but I don't know. I haven't looked into the tier 4. What are the changes for tier 4? If anything that we learned from last time, I think with the conversation with Gina, the immigration lawyer, was that the application process probably is slightly easier, as in, but that's across all visa categories, not just tier 4, but it will apply for tier 4 as well, which is, I think they accept bank statements, online bank statements, kind of things like that, technical things that is just, in terms of submission of documents has become easier. That's what I learned. That's across all visa categories, not just for tier 4. Or in terms of real changes, I don't know. I don't want to give the wrong information again. So, but of course, what I know is from January, any EU students will have to, apply for a tier 4 visa. And especially if you're watching the news today, our prime ministers is there's a topic of the day today with Home Secretary and our prime minister is about announcing that it's confirmed, everything is confirmed and done, which is the end of free movement for EU nationals, which means that if you're EU national watching this video, if you want to study next year, you have to apply for the student visa. And after that, you will have to, if you want to work here, then you will have to transition from the student visa to skilled worker. So, which means everyone is the same, whether it's an international student or it's an EU student, you will go through the same process.
Yeah, but essentially, Harsha, to secure a tier 4 student visa, the student route visa, it's pretty much going to be quite a similar process, and it's going to be made easier for students to do that as well. But yeah, hopefully during the session we kind of focus on the step after that, which is once you've secured your tier 4 visa, once you've secured your student route visa, as it will be called, what are the steps that you can do to secure a tier 2 visa, tier 2 sponsorship? And we've got a kind of a very open question from IG Sharma, H Sharma. Hi, how can a student get tier 2 sponsorship? So again, that's such a huge question. So if you can be more specific, that would be amazing. Or even if you can tell us a little bit about kind of what you're studying and what kind of tier 2 graduate job you want to get. What have you been looking at? What would you like to do? What would be your dream job? That would be really useful. But I think we covered this off last week as well, but very simply, the process to securing tier 2 sponsorship in the UK, the process that we're going to talk about is for university students to switch from their student visa to their tier 2 work visa, which is going to be called student route to skilled work. So it's a bit confusing with the different names, but currently at this point, it's tier 4 to tier 2. And you have to apply for your tier 2 visa before your tier 4 runs out. I think that's really, really important. There can't be a gap at all. So it needs to be before your tier 4 visa expiry date. And the simplest way, obviously, is to apply for a job within a company that has the license and is willing to sponsor your tier 2 visa. Okay, so we talk about the kind of companies that are willing to, and the industries that they tend to be based in. And I forgot to do an intro at the beginning of this, but the industries and the kind of types of companies that tend to sponsor the tier 2 visa are within professional services firms, investment banking, engineering, and technology mainly. Obviously, there is opportunities in kind of healthcare as well, and probably other sectors, but those are the industries that we tend to focus on because they hire the most international students, international graduates. So that's a kind of a very simple answer, applying for one of these kind of companies and securing a job offer before your tier 4 visa expires. Okay, and again, for anybody who is on here that maybe isn't an international student, I would say, you know, stay with us, and if we can give you some insight, brilliant. But just bear in mind that, you know, at Grad Careers Coach, we do focus on helping international students who are already studying in the UK, or you're thinking about studying here, you're about to study here, and you want to know a little bit more about how to work here after university.
Yep.
Brilliant. Sorry, so that's a long answer for a quite a short, broad question, but I hope that was helpful.
Yeah. We have a question from Harsha. Say, if I want to earn more money, can I work 2 jobs under Tier 2 visa?
I'm not sure that you can. But again, that's a really good question, actually. So we're going to be doing a live Q&A within our careers platform in early December with an immigration lawyer. So I'm going to ask her that question. There will be rules under the Tier 2 visa. So if you're already employed, I mean, that's not even the Tier 2 visa, that's just a rule generally. If you've already got a full-time job, at one company, then it's going to be quite rare to be able to pick up work elsewhere. I think it's unlikely that you'll be working 2 jobs. I think it will be one full-time role under the Tier 2 visa, and potentially, and I'll check this, I think it's a good question, if you were to pick up more work, say, I don't know, evening or weekend work, that could affect the terms of your Tier 2 visa. So you've got to be very, very careful. And actually, it will be in your contract. As soon as your Tier 2 visa is issued by your employer, it will have a very, very detailed contract, and it will say exactly what you can and you can't do under your Tier 2 visa. So you have to just follow the rules of your contract.
Yeah, the key thing, the really important here is that as a Tier 2 visa holder, your employer is responsible for what you do here. They sponsor you so that you can work here. I think it's a lot to do whether it's if I remember correctly, you can get another job, but you need to get another Tier 2 sponsorship, and you need to get your current Tier 2 sponsor to agree with it. So usually employers wouldn't, because that's the whole point, that they sponsor you to work for them full time. So so I think you probably need to get another sponsorship as well, and approval from the current employers and another employer. Yeah.
Cool.
Great. I can't be. So Obafemi, hello. What are the prospects of getting to Tier 2 visa sponsorship if you study MSc Electrical Power and Energy Systems with a 4-year telecommunication engineering experience from your home country? 4 years experience.
Do you want me to answer that?
Yeah, if you could. Okay,
so I think a great subject for your masters, electrical power and energy systems. They're definitely within this field there are Tier 2 graduate roles, 100%. So I think it's a good masters that you've chosen, and then with your 4 years, I guess it's a bachelor's in telecommunications engineering. Doesn't really matter that you've done it in your home country. It's still absolutely will contribute to what you can apply to in the UK. So it kind of gives you a broad spectrum of roles to apply to. So I would probably start with looking for roles that are related to your master's to begin with, and then maybe opening it out to roles that are connected to your undergrad as well. But
I think what he meant was the work experience, not the 4 years was the work experience.
Oh, sorry. Yes, of course. Experience, not degree. Yeah. 4 years of experience is brilliant, really. The more kind of experience, the better. Often, the only thing I would say is when it comes to graduate roles, sometimes having too much experience can work against you because employers are really wanting to hire fresh graduates. So potentially for you, you might be more inclined to go for an experienced hire position, but that's a personal choice. And I don't know about the experience, right? Is it, you know, consistently 4 years at a company? Is it 4 kind of sets of internships or placements? But I think it's more the former, that you've got 4 years consistent experience, in which case that's going to affect your decision to apply to a graduate role or an experienced hire role, which is obviously completely up to you. But I think those industries are definitely hiring. So the prospects are very much dependent on not just what you're studying and not just where your work experience is. I think your chances of securing tier 2 sponsorship is about lots of other different factors as well. So for example, how long you've got left on your visa, you know, when are those roles that are related to your masters and your experience, when are those roles opening, when do they close, when do they hire? You know, we know typically UK recruitment starts in about September, October. And especially for graduate roles, they will wrap up by spring. So you've kind of got a short window. So that's, you know, timing plays a key part. So there's kind of lots of factors that will determine your prospects. And we have, for this very reason, because we get asked this kind of question all the time about your chances of securing a tier 2 visa, we've created an online assessment, and it's completely free, and it's called What Are Your Chances of Securing a Tier 2 Visa in the UK? So I will post a link to this free assessment, and I would encourage you, Akanbi, to complete that quiz, and you'll get a better idea of the difference of success factors, because we created this based on our experience of successfully helping international students to secure jobs. And, you know, doing this for nearly 5 years, and we can see there are certain factors which contribute to students securing a job offer successfully. So we're kind of just helping you to think about your chances in this way. But I'll share a link to that now.
Yeah. So if you do this assessment, that will give you some idea. And what is most important thing with the assessment is that you will get to also know what are the areas that you can improve and you need to improve. So it is so important to know that, because no matter what percentage, what are the percentages given you from the assessment, there's ways that you can improve them. So after the test, trying to look at the key areas for improvements and trying to improve your chances. So that is the purpose of it. It's not that, oh, I have low chance that I'm not going to try. Well, unless you really don't want to, that's really up to you. But if you really want to, that's your goal, that's what you set to do, you are really determined to get, you know, to want to build a career in the UK, then this is what you, you know, what you can do to improve your chances.
So a question from Rabia. I think you were on tier 2 Launchpad, Rabia. So, you know, great to meet you. I'm currently on a tier 4 student visa, and I'm interested in applying for the global talent visa. Amazing. Tell us a little bit more about that, kind of which fields are you specializing in? So do I have to apply before my student visa expires? If you're applying in country, then yes, you do have to apply for the global talent visa before your student visa expires. So you just need to start the process. So once you've started the process, that will extend your visa. And it doesn't mean that you can't apply to the global talent visa outside of the UK, because yes, you can, but I believe it's a slightly different process. So if you do want to apply in country, then do get the process started before your visa expires. And, you know, if you can tell us kind of when your visa is expiring, and a little bit more about why the global talent visa, that would be really helpful.
Yeah. And also, I don't know if the new kind of details of the point base for next year has been announced. So that's another thing that you need to pay attention to. Yeah. So as soon as those, whichever visa you want to switch to, yes. So then it's really, yeah, you really need to make sure that you check out the new point based system. What are the details? Because what is global talent, what is tier 2, is likely there's going to be some changes, or tier 4. The details. We are all still waiting for it. As soon as the document is published, we know the details, and we will know better.
I mean, there has been an update. So a kind of a big report has been published, but it's a really dense, long document, and Gina's actually kind of going through it now, and hopefully she can kind of summarize some of the key things, because what we want to try and do here is just tell you what's going to be relevant for you as international students who want to stay here, so you don't need to kind of digest the whole of the new points-based system and all of the kind of the rules and regs. It's more just, we'll try and focus on the areas that are specific to your situation. But no, there has been a report.
Yeah, so one thing that for all the students here that you are the older students here that you are in our channel, or you are watching the live stream today. One thing that I would like to really remind you is, it's so easy when you think about visa, you got so focused on the visa rules. But if you are a student, if you want to work if you want to get a job and build your career in the UK for tier 4 to tier 2, or call it skill work next year, the number one thing that you cannot do without is a sponsorship from your employer. Yeah. So without a job, no matter how, this is definitely not going to change. This is not going to change. It's going to be even more. So your focus should be get a job. If you want to go into tier 2 job, that is your number one priority. Because without a job with a sponsorship, then no matter how they make it easy in terms of less maintenance, money that you need in the bank, all these things is so not important. Because I wouldn't say it's completely not important. You still need to meet them, but your step number one is to get a job. So, and that is why we are here, because without a job, you can't really look into other aspects of it. And to get a job, you need to really start really early. You need to start at least a year in advance before you graduate. So if your master's is only 1 year, so for example, I haven't read the details, but I just glancing through the comments, some students say it's coming in January. If you're coming to study in January, what you really need to do is that you need to start preparing, and you need to already thinking about it. If your master's is 1 year, by January 2022, you should be able to, you should aim, or you really want to aim at getting a job when you graduate, for a couple of reasons. We talked about it before. Reason number one is because of course, we know that if you finish your study in January, or finish your study in September next year, September 2021 or January 2022, you will be eligible to the post-study visa, which is, they call it the graduate route visa. And if you are eligible to that, you have a little bit more time. But what is more important is that a lot of companies that's hiring will want you to be a fresh graduate. Okay, so you really want to aim for, when you finish that time, you're going to get a job. And also another thing that is important as well is that the graduate route visa, that you have 2 years in the UK after your study, you cannot extend it. There's no way to renew that visa. So you have to, if you want to, you have to switch to one other category. So the natural category that you're going to switch to would be on the tier 2 visa. Tier 2 visa, or the skilled worker, because that gives you, leads you to a path into getting an indefinite leave to remain eventually, if you want to. So if that's your plan, step number one, stop worrying about what is the visa is going to come, how it's going to happen, because we already know the important things. We already know. Number one, you need a job. You need a job with sponsorship. That's number one. So focus on that. And if you have any question on that, it would be really, really useful that we can use the time today. Ask us any question. How do you get a job with a tier 2 sponsorship or skill work sponsorship? And that is when we will be able to give you a lot of input and help you to get that first. Because once you have that, the rest of this is a lot easier.
Yeah, definitely. And you know, talking about that, we also have regular interviews with international students that we've helped to secure a tier 2 job, and so you know, we can give you the, you know, all the advice, all the steps, but actually it's really valuable hearing from students who've been successful, and they can tell you exactly what they did step by step to secure tier 2 sponsorship. And actually all the students have a very similar story that they tell, and so I really recommend watching. I think we've got some clips on our channel, our YouTube channel. We also have full recordings in our online careers platform, Tier 2 Launchpad, and I'll share a link. I don't, Jan, if you don't mind it, kind of sharing that link, but yeah, all of this learning will save you a lot of time, you know, instead of doing it on your own and trying to figure out what is the right way to secure a job, what strategies should I use, how many roles should I apply for. You know, try and really have a look at some of these interviews that we've done with successful job offer holders, because they'll tell you what they did, you know, and sometimes they didn't start off doing the right thing, but they realize very quickly, well, this isn't working, or I'm getting rejections, or these companies aren't sponsoring. So then there's a moment where they all kind of change their strategy, you know, they change their plan, and then their applications are much smoother and much more successful, and eventually they get a job offer. Sometimes they get multiple job offers. So, you know, I think that's really valuable to kind of look at and to watch our videos. Okay, so Rabia, thank you. I did say, you know, tell us a little bit more about your background. So you're a UX UI designer professionally. Again, brilliant. I'm sure it's a skill that is highly sought after in the UK. So good luck with the global talent visa. Okay, a question from Annie. Post-graduation, 1, would you recommend taking grad schemes jobs versus direct entry jobs? And 2, what are the chances of having tier 2 sponsorship through grad schemes jobs? I'm happy to answer this, Jen. Yeah, so post-graduation, I would highly recommend a graduate scheme job route. There are so many top graduate schemes that come with visa sponsorship, because companies that have graduate schemes are large global companies. They have the budget to sponsor your tier 2 visa. They have the resources, they have the immigration lawyers. They actually have the need for you as well, and the want, because they want to hire a diverse team. They don't just want to hire, you know, 20 UK graduates for their grad scheme. They want really different kinds of graduates from different countries, speaking different languages and, you know, different cultures, because their work will involve working with maybe diverse clients, you know, and internally the company will be very international. So I would recommend going through a graduate scheme route initially. Also applying for direct entry and graduate jobs if you think that they match your skills and your experience and you're quite confident about applying for them, and that you're confident that they can sponsor your tier 2 visa. So maybe the answer is a little bit of both, but from our experience, our international students who we've helped, I would say a lot of them, more than half, have secured tier 2 visas via a grad scheme. Okay, so I guess yes would be the answer, and the chances are very high through grad schemes. But again, grad schemes are competitive. You're looking at, you know, the top jobs in the country, and everybody wants to secure a place there. So if you are going to apply, in order to increase your chances, you've got to really take a step back and look at your application. So whether that's your CV, cover letter, application form, it really, really does need to be exactly what the UK employer is looking for, exactly what the role requires. You really need to focus on making sure that your job application is the very, very best it can be. Okay, because that will increase your chances of securing tier 2 sponsorship via the grad scheme.
Yeah. And Ani just add to the question saying that I do have 10 plus work in my domain in India, work in a global company, in a global role. So you have 10 plus, I think you mean 10 plus years? Is that what you, 10 plus years of working experience? That I think, I'm guessing that's what you mean. Yeah. So yeah, so if you have over 10 years of work experience, then graduate scheme would be a little bit difficult to get, if I'm right. Anika, you can correct me on that. If you have over 10 years of work experience, then it's unlikely that you'll be able to you will be considered. It's very unlikely you'll be considered into a graduate scheme or graduate job. So because
a grad scheme is for fresh grads with limited experience, because the company will train you. They want to kind of create the employee that they want. They want to harness your potential. So with 10 years plus experience, you're probably looking at experienced higher roles. And again, the clue is in our name. At Grad Careers Coach, we very much focus on tier 2 graduate jobs and helping students to get into tier 2 graduate jobs. So I hope that's helpful.
Yeah, totally. Yep. Okay. So I can't be. Have we looked at that already? Is that I actually study in the UK January next year? Yeah. So we talk about it a little bit. My course has an advanced practice attached to it. It's like internship. How does this help? How does a new 2 years PSW? So we talk a little bit about that. If you have like kind of a placement year attached to your course, then you will very likely you're going to need to find your placement first. The interviews of the placement, the recruitment process could be quite similar to getting a graduate job. It's slightly easier, but it's also very not that easy, I would say. A lot of students still don't secure, and if it depends on your study, the course that is designed. We know that some university is there are usually kind of two options. One option is if you don't get a placement year, then your visa ends. Your visa ends early. Okay, so you don't get that additional year. They're not going to allow you just. There is a deadline for you to get a placement. So if you don't get a placement on your first year, let's say it's 1 year study and 1 year placement, and they will have an end date. If you don't get a placement by certain date, then your visa would end early. So your tier 4 or your student visa is going to end early. Another potential option for some university or some courses that's offering is that you have to they will arrange something for you, whether it's a consulting project, whether it is another study, kind of few subjects. So you will means that your study is longer, and you don't get the work experience. So that is very much depend on your course. So if your course is about the placement, which is you have to do the 1 year placement in any company, then usually the university will help you. But from our experience, again, it could be different next year, but from our experience, they don't provide, it's not a guarantee. So you still have to work for it. And we can also help you in the process of the recruitment as well. If you want to get, you want us to help you throughout the application process to get a recruitment placement year. So you can also, come to us, next year when you're here, or as soon as you are here, if you're coming in January. So that's very soon. The 2 years graduate route visa, or we call it PSW, is slightly different from the placement. It's kind of, my understanding is independent from that. So after you finish your study, you have to graduate. If If you come for a few years and you didn't graduate, you didn't finish your study, you failed or something, from my understanding, you will not be eligible for the graduate because the name is a graduate route. So you have to be able to first graduate from the university, and then you can apply for that visa, and that's independent. For that visa, the good thing is you do not need any sponsorship. So you can already get, you can apply for that as long as you finish and completed your degree, whatever degree that you signed up to study in the UK as a graduate, then you'll be able to apply to that. And that's 2 years, non-renewable. You won't be able to renew it at the end of it. You have to, if you want to stay longer, you can switch to other categories. It's really good. These 2 years visas give you a little bit more time, and also give you a little bit, if you are only here to actually do a 2 years experience and you want to go back to your country or go somewhere else, then this is a very good visa for you. If you plan to stay longer in the UK, then aim to get into the skilled work or tier two visa, because that is the visa that is renewable and it counts towards your indefinite leave to remain. So that if you want to settle here in the UK, you need that tier 2.
Yeah, perfect. So a question from Aditya. I'm currently on the tier 4 student visa. Do I have to apply for the post-study work visa, which is actually called the graduate route visa, once I complete my graduation? So I know that you have to apply for the new PSW or graduate route visa before your tier 4 visa expires, and it seems likely that you would have to have graduated first. So basically, yes, you do have to apply before your tier 4 visa expires. I think that's really important. But again, there hasn't been much information about exactly how students can apply for the PSW. There's been no step-by-step, you have 14 days to apply, etc., etc. So in terms of the detail, we don't have it yet. Nobody does. But as soon as it's published, it will be on the government website. So just keep an eye out for that. We're obviously always kind of up to date with these things. As soon as we hear anything more about the detail, about the process, then we'll share that with you.
Yep. Good. The next question is Dia. Oh, Dia, you're on our tier 2 Launchpad, I think. And also you were also on our tier 2 drop-in session yesterday, I remember. So I'm keen to, in applying for roles related to HR, but I don't have HR accreditation, but do have relevant experience, such as working within HROD at my university in HR, and essentially looks for internationals. Anika, would you like to?
Yeah, so I've actually spoken to Dia. So
okay.
But I think we spoke over the phone. So yeah, I know that she's very, very keen. You're very keen to get into human resources, and it seems like a really good fit for you. However, there are so few tier 2 graduate jobs within HR, and the ones that exist are HR graduate schemes at top companies. So the industries that I was talking to you about, I think when we had a consultation, but HR grad schemes at professional services firms, at investment banks, engineering firms, the larger kind of corporate companies who have a HR graduate scheme is where you want to be aiming. But because usually there's only one HR grad scheme and there's not a huge number of places offered. So if we can kind of compare it to an audit graduate scheme, for example, a company will take maybe 100 grads for their intake, but maybe only 2 HR grads. So the places on offer are much, much more limited. So it is harder. I wouldn't say you shouldn't apply. I think you should, but it's just you have to manage that expectation and know. You would have already known this, I'm sure. You can tell when you look at graduate jobs websites that are very few HR graduate roles. But yeah, if that's what you want to do, then try and aim there, but also maybe take a step back and think about what other types of roles you would also be suitable for. That other roles would really require your HR background and your HR skills. So it's just taking your skills and applying it to kind of what's available in the tier 2 job markets. So you've also said, I think I knew this, you're a student sabbatical officer, your visa expires in July 2021. Well, if it's a tier 4 general visa that's expiring in July 2021, then I think you should be eligible for the PSW or the graduate route, because you're on a tier 4 general visa and you're wanting to apply to the new PSW. So I think that should be a yes. But again, because you have graduated, sorry?
Yeah, I think we don't know, because I think that because I just looked at that the second sentence of your comment, because you completed your course in April 2020.
You're not a fresh graduate.
You are not a fresh graduate.
It's not as clear cut, I think, for you. That's where you need to speak to a university and ask them about this, or potentially, even at this point, to be honest with you, at this point, even an immigration professional won't be able to shed too much light on it, because they don't have the information yet, because the government released it. So it could be a case of just being a bit patient and waiting a few months to understand exactly what the rules are and whether you'll be eligible. I hope you are. For me, I would think that you would be, because you're on a tier 4 visa, but then also because you've graduated earlier this year, then I don't know. So it depends on what stance the government is going to take on that.
Yeah. Well, like Lanika said, hopefully there's more details that will be released soon, so that you know whether it will be eligible for you or not. Hopefully it will be eligible for you. Next question, Arjun. What are the various platforms for getting tier 2 sponsored job after masters in the UK? There are quite a
platforms. What do you mean? What do you mean that as, Jan?
I think my understanding is that you're thinking about where can you find those jobs, the tier 2 sponsored jobs, which is like the website. I think you are trying to.
Okay. Yeah.
I think that's what Arjun's trying to say. Where can you find them? If that is what you mean, there are quite a few graduate websites. So you mentioned tier 2 sponsored job. Again, there's no website that is specific just for all tier 2 sponsored jobs. I don't think that exists. That is so specific. They exist in various platforms, and for us, we can maybe share with you that graduate jobs. But if you are more experienced, then it's different where you're going to find them as well. So I think a couple of maybe key websites that you can look at is like Target Jobs, Bright Network. These are kind of the two key things. Maybe Anika, you have a few more that you want to share.
So for getting tier 2 graduate jobs, there is a site called Student Circus, and I know that they post only graduate jobs with tier 2 sponsorship. So I would definitely check them out. So it's a jobs board essentially. And of course, within our careers platform, which is slightly different because it's not a jobs board, but our careers platform, tier 2 Launchpad, has a list of the top 95 companies that can sponsor your visa. This is an up-to-date list. We are very confident that these companies actively sponsor. We've helped students to secure jobs at these companies, and although it's a short list of 95, within those 95 companies, there are 5, 6, 7 different types of graduate roles within them. So we've curated hundreds and hundreds of jobs that international students can apply for, but this is all within our online platform, tier 2 Launchpad, which I think Jan shared the link to.
Yes, I did. Yeah, literally just the next after Arjun's comment. Then.
Brilliant. Okay, so if that's something that you would like to take advantage of, and you think that's a perfect place to start, and it's gonna really help you, then I would recommend checking out Tier 2 Launchpad, our online careers platform. And not only do we have kind of the list of companies that can sponsor your visa, we also, and I think this is more important, we also help you with the process of applying to those jobs, you know, really understanding what the roles are, understanding how to create, you know, an adapted CV to the UK graduate jobs market, how to understand what UK graduate employers are looking for, etc. So all of that is within Tier 2 Launchpad. Perfect. So a question from Harsha now. If I resigned from a job due to different reasons, can I stay in the UK and apply for other jobs, or does my visa expire? Okay.
Usually if you resign, because again, this is same principles as in the person that responsible for your visa, number one person that is the company that hire you, because they are your sponsor. So your sponsor, if you end the relationship with your sponsor, whether it's the same, if you're studying, your sponsor is the university. If you end the relationship with the university or the work, then that's the end of your sponsorship. So usually, you know, you will have to go. But I believe there is a period of time that you can stay, but not very long. I don't know how long, maybe 30 days, 60 days. I'm not sure. But there will be kind of a little bit of time. But if that's what your question is about, if you resign, then that's the end of your relationship. You need to have another sponsorship that is continuing. You have to apply it again to switch, you know, apply again in the Tier 2. Then you will be able to go over to the other one. Otherwise, you know, that's the end of the sponsorship.
Yeah. That's right. Yeah. Right. Okay. A question from Shen. Students who are going for masters with a 1-year Tier 4 visa, can they find a placement and extend their visa if they get a placement? So if you're doing a master's course which includes a 1-year work placement, then you'll have your Tier 4 visa for the duration of your placement. Yes, because it's part of your degree, right? It's part of your university course. So you will have your Tier 4 visa. So it will extend your Tier 4 visa, but after the placement ends, after you graduate, after you leave university, then your Tier 4 visa will expire as usual.
So the key over here as well is, I would add, is that if you can only work on placement if you have a student visa that includes the placement. So what you cannot do is you finish your Tier 4, go and find a placement or an internship, and then apply for a visa. I don't think that works unless there's another category that I don't know, like maybe Tier 5 or maybe some other things that probably that is what you could go for. But if you talk about Tier 4, if it's only 1 year, then I don't think so. So I don't think that, you know, after you finish, I don't think you can go on to the next one, if that makes sense.
Yeah, agreed. Yeah. Hopefully that makes sense to you, Shen. A question about, what if I don't get a Tier 2 visa during the graduate route visa? What is your visa for such student? And I'm guessing the question is, what happens if I don't get a Tier 2 during the 2-year graduate route, during the 2-year PSW? What if I don't get a Tier 2 visa?
Yeah, I think the graduate route itself is not renewable. So there's no way to renew it. You have to switch. If you want to stay, you have to switch to one other category, whether it's a skilled worker, whether it's global talent, whether, you know, whatever visas that exist then, because we are going through this really changing time. So this is really a time that way, you know, you need to secure something before your graduate route ends, because your graduate route is only a temporary visa, 2 years for you to learn about it. about for you to learn to for you to have time to search for a job or to another categories to go on.
Yeah. Cool. Shall we move on?
Yes.
Vinayak, according to your expertise and experience, what is the percentage of getting tier 2 visa for international students? I think that's a really good question. Honestly, in the last few years, when we've had the reduction of the amount of time after graduating that an international student can stay here, so post 2012, I think it was only 4 or 6 months after graduating that students have to find a job, which makes it so difficult, so pressured. The numbers on average were about 5,000 or 6,000 a year successfully securing a tier 2 visa. Now, if you think about the number of international students that come and study here, we're talking in the 300,000-400,000. So if you look at in that way, the percentage is super small. But what I always say, and I kind of have a whole video talking about this as well, is you've not just got to look at the number of students who are studying here, you've got to look at the number of students who are coming to the UK to study and who are actively applying for graduate jobs in the UK. And you'll know from your experience, you'll have course mates and you'll have friends, and there'll be international students, and you'll see that some of them are really serious about staying, and they'll actively apply, they'll do the research, they'll make 5-6 job applications a week, and they're really motivated. But the vast majority either don't want to stay in the UK, they just want to study and then they want to go home, and that's fine, or they don't know what their options are. They almost feel like they'll maybe have a look at applying, but it's so difficult that they won't really commit to it, and I'm sure you can relate to that kind of person. We've all met that kind of person. So when you look at the percentage, if you look at the students who are serious, actively applying, totally committed, and the ones who secure a job role, the percentage is much higher. But I think what you should take away is that every year thousands of students successfully secure the tier 2 visa. And I know that once we've got the new 2-year graduate route visa, that percentage is going to get even higher. It's not going to be 5,000-6,000. It's probably going to be, 5 times as many as that, because we know that that's what happened pre-2012 when we had the 2-year post-study work visa. The numbers of students securing tier 2 visas were so much higher. So I predict there'll be a return to that. But I think you just need to look at your individual situation and just focus on you. What can you do to increase your chances? What are the things in your background could be improved? Do you have any skills gaps? Do you have to work on your CV? Do you have a good strategy for securing a job? Do you know where to find suitable roles? And most importantly, do you know how to apply for those roles in the right way? So I would really just focus on you. Every student that we've helped secure a job has said, I couldn't believe it. I was just so happy. It was just such a shock, and I can't believe that I've got to this point. But it just shows it is possible. It is absolutely possible. So I know I kind of like to talk a lot, and probably, I don't know if I've answered your question well, but what I would say is don't worry about what everybody else is doing and who else has got a role. All I would focus on is the fact that that companies are hiring tier 2 graduate jobs, that there are a certain number of companies that hire every single year and want to hire you. And that students have successfully secured tier 2 visas, in their thousands, year after year after year. So just take that as, some comfort and feel confident that it's possible, and then just work on your own applications, your own job strategy, and how you're going to get there, how you're going to get from here to the job offer stage.
Yeah, and I I maybe my view is really because I was an international student myself, and I can share a little bit the experience with you. Is I was the lucky one. I was the 2012 before I graduated just on 2012, so I was that time during that time, even that time with the post-study visa. I can tell you that most people do not. Most people, my classmates that study, do not want to stay in the UK. Do not intend to stay, do not want to stay, or they can't get a job and they don't stay. So it's really up to you that kind of find out the ways that you want to do, what you can do. I think it's really important to come from an approach where thinking about what you can do to increase your chances, regardless of what other people. Because sometimes you look at the numbers, it can be very disheartening. And then if you look at the wrong numbers, if you look at just the overall numbers, it could be really disheartening. So the key, really, the message is really I don't want you to give up. If you really feel that this is what you want to do it, then find a way. There is a lot of way that you can secure a job in the UK. So that is really important for that.
Yeah, I hope that's kind of helpful and makes you feel a bit more positive and a bit more confident as well.
Yeah.
So a question from Odebi, I'm really sorry if I've said that wrong. Is it possible to switch back to the Tier 4 visa after the post-study work graduate route visa? So I don't know about you, Jan, and we're definitely not kind of immigration experts. It's a really good question, and I'm going to ask our in-house expert to kind of answer this. But I would think so, yes, because you could absolutely at any time decide that you wanted to further your studies, apply for a bachelor's, apply for a master's course, and then secure your Tier 4 visa. So I absolutely don't see why this wouldn't be allowed, to be honest. Lots of students at the moment, once they finish their course, because they're not really sure what to do next, they sometimes apply for another course, another master's, and that's absolutely fine. So I don't see that there would be any issue with going back to university to study after the post-study work visa, if that's what you wanted to do. But I do know that there is I think there's a limit, isn't there, on how many years? Five. Is it 5?
I think 4 or 5 years, I think. 4 or 5. You can study, I think 4 or 5. I think it's 5 years maximum under in anything that's lower than PhD.
Okay, perfect.
But I don't know if that. I think I read somewhere that rule might change next year, which I don't know. If it hasn't changed as it stands now, then it would be, I think it's a maximum 5 years. So so what they're trying to do, the reason why they had this rule before was they didn't want students to misuse the visa and then just stay here, just study after study. What they really want you to do is that you can do about 4 or 5 years, and then you need to have I think it's 5 years in a 10-year period. So which means that with it, so for example, 2010 to 2020, you can only study anything below PhD, no more than 5 years, if that makes sense. So so that was the rule, or that is the rule, but it might change in a few weeks' time when it comes to 2021. So that was the rule. So as long as it's less than 5 years, you are allowed to study, but not more than that. So that's what I know.
And I don't know if this is relevant for your particular question, but just remember that if your goal is to secure kind of permanent residency or indefinite leave to remain, then your years at university, and I think it's the same with PSW, won't count towards that. So if you do want to stay here on a more permanent basis and be given permanent residency, which Gian has now, which is exciting, then you will need to be in the UK under sponsorship of some kind for 5 years. So you can have a Tier 2 job for 5 years and then apply for, is it permanent residence? residence or indefinite leave to remain?
It's called indefinite leave to remain at the moment.
Indefinite leave to remain. Okay.
But we don't know. They might change the name because
Probably
it looks
will
like they changed all the names of
I
this
know.
visa from January 2021. We don't know. They might change all the name because now that's how they distinguish is you have, if you are non-EU national, it's indefinite leave to remain. If you are EU national, it's called settled status. So that is the difference between those two. The condition is slightly different, but essentially it's the same. You can stay in the UK without condition and indefinitely. Slightly different, you know, with the condition, but other than that, it's all good, all more or less the same.
Yeah. Okay, so we're getting a lot of questions around the jobs board, and it's called Student Circus. Okay, so that's the name of the jobs board. Okay, Arjun, if we are able to secure a tier 2 sponsored job in one company and have the chance, could we have a chance to switch to another tier 2 sponsor company for a better option? Okay, so that's one question. I would say yes, you can. If you've secured a tier 2 job successfully, then yes, you can transfer your tier 2 visa to another company, yes, but you have to just make sure that you're applying for that role, that the new company accepts you, that is happy, the new company is happy to sponsor your visa. And I think the process of kind of the switch is just transferring kind of paperwork and documents from one company to another. So yeah, it's absolutely fine to do that. You can make that switch. And then the second part of your question is, how is this pandemic going to hit the UK recession? I think you mean going to hit the UK economy. Is it going to result in a recession? Yes, we are in a recession.
We are in recession.
Yeah. So, yeah. Jan, I don't know if you want to start, but
yeah, I think I wish that we would know. I think that is, I wish we would know. Unfortunately, no one can tell you this. But of course, the pandemic has a global impact, as we know, and has an impact in the UK. Of course, we are currently in recession, and we can see that a lot of things as government is doing, trying to help the economy, to keep the economy running. You know, all that things going on. We don't know how things is going to change, especially, you know, nowadays. I would say that everything changes. You can't really plan too much. You know, you don't really know a lot, but you can do the best. You know, the best that you can. So maybe before yesterday, I would say to you that yes, it's probably going to be very bad. And then today, I'll probably say that probably it's not going to be that bad, because I'm not sure if you've seen the news about the vaccine. So the vaccine, I have actually looked into the detailed scientific backgrounds. The vaccine is actually looking very positive. So far, it sounds. And if that really kind of rolled out, you know, globally, or, you know, at least in the UK, the Prime Minister has already said that, you know, we have X amount. So that kind of would have a lesser impact. The impact is going to still be there. But in terms of the economy wise, you know, I think everybody is really keen to keep going back and run it again, and you know, have a more thriving economy and recovering from the impact that we have this year. So I would say that, you know, I wish we could know, but we don't. I don't know what's Anika's your view, but I think we don't know. But we said, you know, negative news, but now it looks like it could be positive next year. So yeah,
we absolutely don't know how the pandemic is fully going to affect the UK. I think we'll know in the months and maybe even the years to come. But in terms of kind of what we want to focus on now, which is your chances of securing a tier 2 job, you know, we've helped students in lockdown earlier this year and even more recently to secure tier 2 graduate jobs. So for the purpose of kind of why you're on this YouTube live and what your goals are, I want to reassure you that despite the pandemic, despite the current recession that we face, you know, these large international companies that I've been talking about, you know, within the industries of professional services, investment banking, engineering, technology, even healthcare, you know, they are hiring and they will sponsor your visa. So yes, it is difficult to kind of comment on the next thing that we've just had through. Yes, it is difficult to get a tier 2 visa. It's always been difficult, even pre-COVID-19. But the difficulty isn't because you know, not all companies sponsor the visas, because that's always been the case. That's always been the case, that a selection of companies in the UK actively sponsor. You know, it's about having the right plan of action. So, you know, do you really know? Do you have a list of those companies that can sponsor the visa, the tier 2 visa? If you don't, that's fine. We have that list. We have that list inside Tier 2 Launchpad, which is our careers platform. So if you want to access this list of 95 tier 2 sponsoring companies, you can access it via our platform. At the moment, it's £47 a month. There's no long-term commitments, and we've built it to help and support international students who want to stay here and who want to secure visa sponsorship. And we've kind of put all of our advice and all of our years of experience inside the platform to help you to get there. You know, there isn't really a quick route. The process is always kind of similar year on year. And even students that we've helped to secure jobs in lockdown have done the same thing. You know, they've narrowed down the list of companies that can sponsor. They've understood which jobs within those companies that they're suitable for, they can apply to. They've sought help to apply to those roles. They've made sure their CV is good, their applications are good, they understand, you know, the interview process. So they've worked really, really hard on the right things. And I think that's really important. I think as an international student, sometimes you think that, you know, spending hours on LinkedIn, applying to lots of different kinds of jobs is putting in the work, but it's not, because you might not get results that way. So how are you going to get the results that you want? You have to follow a clear plan, you know, and you don't have to figure it out all by yourself and wonder where to start or what you should be doing next, because all of that is within our platform, Tier 2 Launchpad. So I would highly recommend having a look at that, reading through everything that the platform kind of includes. And if you have any questions, please join us next week and ask us questions about Tier 2 Launchpad specifically. So yeah, I hope that kind of helps you to feel a little bit more confident and to feel a little bit more informed about kind of what to do next.
Yeah, that's true. I think, well, yeah, we might just take the last questions from Odbi. And, you know, you ask about, you know, it seems really difficult. Yes, we know, we mentioned that before. And that is the reason why grad careers exist as well, because we know that it's very challenging for international students. You know, back then when I graduated, there's no grad careers. I wish that grad careers existed back then. So it was so difficult for international students. That's the reason why we exist. That's the reason why Nika just said that we created this Tier 2 Launchpad. So I don't know what's your current situation. Are you currently in the UK already or anything? But what you do is, I would really recommend, like Nika said, join the Tier 2 Launchpad. If there are so many things that would help you and make your journey a lot easier, because we have recruiters on the platform that will be able to guide you through the process. So once you know how to, you know, where to find the information, how to do that, this will make the whole thing a lot easier. At the moment you find it difficult, it's because you can't see a way out yet, but you have already taken the first step, because your first step is attending the YouTube today, asking those questions, because that is already a first step, because the first step is the step that would actually help you eventually, you know, to open up those doors, open up those knowledge, finding those help. Because if you sit there and then just think about it and then find it really difficult, and then most people around you is going to tell you very difficult. You know, I've been on those Facebook groups and all that. Everyone is going to tell you that it's impossible. But
Yeah.
you know, for us, the difference is we consistently see students getting a job. So it is like a different reality that sometimes we're seeing. And we are acknowledging that it's difficult. Not every student will get that, but we also see that if students that actually taken the right action and do the right thing, find out the information and learn and improve themselves, you have a very high chance of getting a Tier 2 job. So this is really, really important. As Tier 2 visa is the same with this newly rolled out point-based system. Tier 2 visa is what they called it now, but next year they change everything to a point-based system. And then they call it the point-based system visa. So everything is point-based. It just basically means that they're going to use points to calculate how many points you got before grant you the visa. So for example, you've got sponsorship, you get like 70 points or something like that, 50 points or 70 points, can't remember. But this is basically just the name of the system. So the principle of it is still the same. Like I said, you need to first secure a job with a sponsorship. That's step number one. So yeah, do that first, and then the rest of them will come.
Exactly. But again, I know that there's probably so many questions about the new points-based system. So that's why we did a whole, I think we've done 2 hours worth of visa-related sessions within our platform, Tier 2 Launchpad, and I've shared the link again. So within that, we've asked an immigration lawyer to answer questions around the new points-based system, how that's going to affect international students like you, what you need to think about, what's going to change, whether it's going to be easier to apply out of country. All of these great questions, we've answered them all within Tier 2 Launchpad. So it's a video recording, and actually we're going to invite the immigration lawyer back in early December to talk about any updates that have happened, and then that's an opportunity for you to attend and ask us kind of questions. So I would say that the careers platform, not only will you get obviously the list of companies that can sponsor you and access to kind of masterclasses and training on how to apply to these Tier 2 jobs, but also you'll have access to 3 Q&As, live Q&As every single month, and you can ask any questions that you want. So it's quite interactive actually, and there are lots of ways to get help and to get your questions answered. But thank you everyone for turning up to this live event. I mean, we've had some amazing questions, some really good quality questions, and thanks for just posting and sharing your experience and telling us a little bit more about you. That's a really good first step.
Yeah, thank you very much for joining us today. Yeah. I look forward to seeing you again next time.